Bueno, familia de RockFM, bienvenido, bienvenida. Estamos en el Wizink Center para disfrutar del que será el concierto de GRETA VAN FLEET en un par de horitas, 2 horitas, más o menos. Han llegado de Barcelona esta mañana en un autobús de gira. Nada de aviones, nada de lujo. Esto es autobús de gira como se ha hecho toda la vida. Guys, GRETA VAN FLEET, welcome.
Hola, hello.
Hola, thank you for having us.
How you doing, guys?
Pretty good.
Fantastic. We're warming right up for the show tonight.
Oh, nice. Do you still feel this kind of excitement when you are about to jump on a stage?
Yeah, it's usually right around 5 or 6 o'clock. The adrenaline starts to kick in, and then you start getting very excited and shaky and energetic.
It slowly builds from there until the moment that we're on stage waiting for the curtain to drop. And then that's a great moment.
Because I was remembering when I think it was B.B. King. He said once, you know, he was actually very old at that time when I read it, and he said, you know, the moment you don't feel this kind of excitement, this kind of butterflies, so to say, before jumping on stage, it means that it's over. What do you think?
Yeah, I would imagine he's right.
Yeah, that means that it doesn't mean the same thing anymore. Yeah, when it's exciting to the mind and to the body, that means it's worth doing.
Beautiful. Because I was thinking that the first time we really started to listen about this young band, GRETA VAN FLEET, that were some kind of the future of rock and roll. It was maybe 8 years ago, maybe 7. The band is formed 10 plus years, more or less.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, you are already touring all over the world. More and more people are going to enjoy the shows. Would you say, pick one word? Music. Is it a hobby, a passion, or a job?
It's life. Life itself, quite literally.
Checkmate.
Boom.
Checkmate, God damn it. But I mean, do you still, of course, you are very young band, but this excitement is already there. Playing live, I guess it's one of the most beautiful parts of being in a band, sharing the music with other people, being on the road and at the studio. For instance, now that you are touring, is there time to write something new, maybe a riff, maybe a lyric, or is it only just to play on tour, just focus on playing?
There's definitely time. It's never we don't set out on tour and have a goal of, trying to use all the space that you have to write music, but it does happen very organically often. A lot of the last album was written on tour, and a few components from this current album, Starcatcher, were written on tour, and I definitely know that all of us collectively have the gears turning towards the next album that will be coming out. I don't know, how is it for you?
It's also kind of like us, kind of at our most honed in and warmed up after we've been on the road for 3-4 weeks. And then everything just gels just really perfectly, just between the consistency of playing week to week to week and the past 10 years of kind of gelling as a band and knowing how each other are going to react to certain things that you're going to play.
I remember that the first time I saw the band, it was we were talking briefly about it in Mad Cool. It's a festival that took place every summer here in Madrid, and it was maybe 3 years ago, more or less. I can't remember. It was the first time I saw you. The stage was a bit smaller. There was people, of course, but it wasn't like tonight. I'm sure, but it was quite magical. This years later, the band is bigger. What can expect somebody that has never seen a GRETA VAN FLEET on stage in a show like tonight? Is there more visuals? Is this more about the music, about the experience? How is going to be the show?
Well, for all of those who have seen us in the festival setting, it's very different. One, we have the freedom to put on the production that we believe supports our music, which is very grandiose on this tour. There's a lot of amazing light and set production, and a lot of room to kind of go around and get intimate with the audience and get close with them. A lot of opportunity for that. We get to incorporate some acoustic parts of our set, which we find that very difficult to do at the festival, because also you're limited on time at the festival. So tonight's show would be substantially longer than a festival set, so we get to incorporate a lot more of the dynamic that we typically like to put into our show. And there's fire and there's pyrotechnics, so that makes it very fun too.
Like Rammstein.
Yeah. Essentially.
It's going to be something very powerful. Because I was thinking that nowadays all kind of shows have a substantial amount of visuals. And maybe I was thinking, I don't know what you think about, I'm curious, that it maybe catches the attention of the people in lack of music. Could it be possible, or is it, in your case, something that's more organic in that way?
I would definitely say that for us, we use the visual side of things because us humans are very visual creatures. We use it to buttress, to support the music. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the time I see production kind of going too far to the point where it's shticky or too much of a bit. Whereas for GRETA VAN FLEET, it's always going to be centered around the music. Our backdrop, if we're feeling like we want video or not, our stage outfits, everything is kind of tailored to the music.
The Starcatcher, the album, came out a few months ago in the summer, in July, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Let's imagine a movie, The Godfather, for instance. They say that if you can, you know what's your movie about when you can tell the movie in one sentence. For instance, The Godfather could be family always first, no? Or Jaws, the movie Jaws would be terror lives underneath water, for instance. Could we take one sentence, as you feel, about what Starcatcher is about?
The divine meets the living.
Okay.
You set me right up.
Easy.
You set me right up. That was good. The Godfather and Jaws and Starcatcher all in the same sentence. I love it. Very flattering.
This maybe last question. I don't want to steal your time, but there was a time when Greta came out that many people, the media mostly, started to say the future of rock and roll, my goodness. Okay. How do you feel about it this year's long? And knowing that there are many bands, like, for instance, AC/DC, the Stones are maybe immortal, but some bands that are going to retire not so far away. And maybe these big bands that fill up stadiums and so on are not going to be around for a long time. It's a question, a matter of time. How do you feel about this future of rock and roll? Not only with the band, that it's only part of the question, but the future of rock and roll as a whole.
Well, it's a high honor. And I think the only reason that rock and roll has lived as long as it has is because since the 30s up until now, there have always been bands that have come in and kind of taken the idea and made it their own and, taken it somewhere else and done something unique to it and molded it. And if you look at the mid-2000s to the 2000 and the teens, there really hasn't been a whole lot of mainstream rock and roll, with the exception of, like Metallica and the Foo Fighters and those bands that have been around. They've existed since long before. So it's kind of crazy to think, that if you don't have all of these rock and roll bands, it might have an end in sight. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not, and it's very far away. So honored, and use it as fuel to the fire to kind of keep it alive in a way.
Because maybe it's I don't know, but I sometimes think about this. Maybe it's time that the rock and roll comes back to the clubs. Maybe not this big, also, but this big arenas. But maybe it's coming back slowly but steady to the clubs and taking this strength to jump again to the big arenas. Of course, you are a band that is already big and it's wonderful. But I think that all the new bands that are coming now to the front are again creating this life, this underground movement in clubs and bars and where it all started, ready to go and take again the whole world.
Very right, because rock and roll is very innately an underground genre. It's kind of a movement. It's kind of a counterculture. It's like the soundtrack to a counterculture movement, and that's how it started, and that's how it became mainstream. And maybe that'll happen again someday. I'm finding it stays kind of underground, or I think it's living its best life right now.
Wonderful. Guys, thank you very much for sharing this time with us. It's been a pleasure. We are eager to see you now on stage. It's a couple hours away, but I feel it's going to be something really magical.
Yes.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.